Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all happy up, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who wanna go, gonna glow. Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. And setting the tone properly, Iowa Joe and I are live following the Packers' 28-21 win over the Chicago Bears as they set themselves up in first place in the NFC North down the stretch run. Joe, we were just talking a second ago. I was getting here in the nick of time, just like the Packers securing that win. And Joe, we're both going off with slight headaches because of this game, and I'm just glad they got the win. That's all I've got to say about it.
Well, this is all I got to say about it.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. They really suck. Yes, the Bears still suck.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah, go for it. Sorry.
The first half was crazy. I mean, they looked like looked like basically the Vikings game all over again. And then the second half, just I don't know what happened, but you know they squeaked it out, and yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. I'm happy it's a win, but I'm still like that just showed some glaring holes still.
Yeah, like we'll get into it when we get into the segments, but that one leaves a little bit, like, I agree with you, it leaves a little sour taste in your mouth, and it puts a lot of the weight into that better have been that way because you were keeping stuff in the bag for 2 weeks from now, and I'm trying not to blow your wad in the first meeting, and then having you playing Indian poker when you guys come back for the rematch in Chicago in a couple weeks. But can't complain too much about that. You did enough. Yeah, this game is going to be the shining example of doing enough to get a win. I do think the Packers outplayed the Bears. They forced them to play the type of game that the Packers would prefer to play. That's the benefit of getting up 14-3 in the first half with some hiccups along the way. And yeah, I didn't care for the bleed the clock out through the whole second half approach. I don't think LaFleur totally turtled or anything like that, but it was just a lack of execution in the second half that almost cost them at the end. But history gets written by the victors, and right now it's a Packers win. Yeah. This was your break out the big plays, break out the unexpected plays. You kind of got both of those on the same right before halftime when you have Bo Melton scoring a deep touchdown pass. But before we unveil everything, let's get into let's get into our segments, Joe.
Fresh cheese.
This one, you would think you'd have so many easy ones to talk about with a win, but I think the main low-hanging fruit is the Christian Watson game. 4 catches on 89 yards, 2 TDs with the long of 41. They like I said to open, they seem to really be driving in the first half where they looked unstoppable. Not so much in the second half, so he kind of disappeared a little bit towards the second half just because of how they were I don't know, play calling or however you want to put it. Maybe the Bears defense did do some adjustments that kept them in check, but overall, yeah, Watson had probably one of his best games again this year. It's hard to believe that these guys are building week to week on 1 week we're saying it's the best game, the next week we're saying it's their best game. And so just hopefully that can keep building on throughout the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and I think what you really like about Watson's game today is that it's not like he just caught 2 goal balls or anything like that for his touchdown. In the first touchdown, he catches a nice, he it's against cover 0 basically, breaks over the middle on a post route. He's isolated on Kevin Byard, and Kevin Byard's been really opportunistic with interceptions this season, but when he's had to do anything not just mop up crappy throws, it's like, yeah, there's a dude who's past his expiration date. And then on the second touchdown, he left everyone's favorite, this guy's going to turn our defense into a playoff contender, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and what's it called? Watson just absolutely left him in the dust on a slant route. Basically, it's a slant route, a slant switch release route. And yeah, True North is here exposing our notes under the table. But, you picked Watson. I'll go with Reid. First off, it was just really good to see Reid get into the flow of a game, get through the game healthy, look like, it wasn't like, oh, the foot dogged him at some point or the shoulder is tender and he's not ready for contact at any point. Like, I know everyone joked like, oh my God, he got 3 early touches in the game. Like they really were scheming up that first drive to get Reid back in the flow of things. And then it was kind of a lull, and then he catches a 3rd down conversion in the 3rd quarter, and everyone's like, oh, he still lives, and he gets a reverse, like, to kind of cap his day off. And it was just really good to see that level of playmaking back in the offense, and it's something they've really needed after Kraft got injured. You have a bunch of different you have a collective Swiss Army knife in the receiver room, and it's just really good to see them get all of those back in working order, especially because Kraft isn't coming back this season. Reid gives this offense another dimension, and it gives defenses another thing to have to game plan for. Caught all of his real target. Yeah, they didn't even Love had the one throwaway that was sort of in Reid's direction, but they didn't.
Uh-oh. The problem with live TV. Mike Kawano's internet strikes again. So just kind of to fill in time until he gets his stuff figured out. Yeah, Reid had an amazing game for his first game back. The indoor rounds look pretty good for him.
Perfect for the live show. But
yeah.
Jaden Reid is just
perfect. But the end rounds were schemed up well for him. The catches were pretty good. That one for the first down conversion where Jordan just kind of it looked like an oops out. Maybe I'm trying to throw it out, but it somehow landed just perfectly for Reid to get his mitts on it and kind of was able to keep it in hand before going out of bounds and getting the first down. And I want to address the rumors here. I do occasionally have notes, so shut up, True North. Just so it was a good, and he took some hits, so you can tell he was back in his groove on those things. And yeah, he didn't. Again, just kind of reiterate what I was saying with Watson. It just seemed like there towards the second half, they were scheming away from, calling plays away from those type of things. So Mike just dropped out again. But all the amazing technologies we have. But so it's good to see. Obviously, it.
Keep going.
obviously it's going to be one of those things where I kind of mentioned it in the preview, where now that we're starting to get a full complement of guys back, it's going to be fun to see how they use them all, and spreading the ball around a little bit more. Now the downside of it is, and we could probably put this in a stale when we get to it, but we didn't see anything of Dontavian Wicks really today, so that's going to be a downside of things going forward. Yeah, I do have to give a shout out to Musgraves. I do think he had that catch. I think he just got screwed over by bad angles from the cameras. To me, it looked like his hand was under the ball all the way, and yeah, I don't know. We'll touch on some of that shit later, because I definitely have some things to go off on it.
Same thing. I agree with you there. I think that basically everyone who got targeted today came through. We'll give another shout out to Bo Melton. Everyone's been like, "What's he doing out there? Why is he still a part of the offense?" And it all came together today against a division opponent. And you saw it last week. You almost saw it last week in Detroit, where Love was just trying to be a little too perfect with his throw, and then today he comes through and puts it just about in the perfect spot. I'm sure if we're like being super ticky-tack, he would love to have led him. Love would really wanted to have led Melton across the field a step more, just because Brisker did have an opportunity to rake that ball out. But I mean, under pressure, the ultimate comedy of that play is that Chicago sends 7 and doesn't get there, doesn't really even get close, and Love just has time to just pick, like, all right, cool. Nice blitz, Chicago. I got this for you. I got this for you in my back pocket. And from there, we'll just go into Jordan's day. Yes, I know he had the interception. It wasn't a bad decision to speak. I would have liked him to just hit Brooks on the check down on that play, because it's 3rd and 19 or whatever it is, and you're trying to fit a ball to Golden between, over the underneath coverage defender and before the safety can crash on it. I understand where he's going with it, and I do think I don't think it's a matter of he didn't see Gardner Johnson. I think he just thought, I can get it there. So don't love that throw too much, but basically everything else he did on during the game was pretty much spot on. Like I said, the touchdowns to Melton and Watson were different kinds of, my guy is running away from coverage, so I just have to throw him slightly open. And then the second touchdown to Watson is just in the exact spot it needs to be, so Watson can catch that ball in stride and just take off across the field, because there's, again, no one there, because Chicago is in desperation, like run pass blitz cover or alignment. And so even on the drives,
well, since you kind of brought that up, since you did you catch that it was a Love decision on that? He made that call
RPO.
on the.
Yeah. It's absolutely an RPO look, and the most important thing I got out of that is, well, obviously the most important one is they connected and it got you a touchdown, but I really like that they went downfield on one of these RPO. You didn't throw something behind the line of scrimmage, get a chance for a negative play or anything like that. You just, Love thought he saw, he's probably looking at it thinking, this is going to be the same thing that I got on the touchdown to Melton. And he did. and so he's like, all right, Christian, we're doing, or really everyone, he's like, we're doing this combination route. And Domovsky had the dot thing, and I'm not even going to bother try to pull it up right now because my internet is being wonky, but it looked like some form of dragon where it's like a double slant with it out, and you get Watson on a switch release to get him inside and either force Chicago to switch up the coverage, or in this instance, Gardner Johnson can't cut off the route. He has to play it up as straight as he can, and he's giving up Watson inside leverage, and Watson, like I said, he just runs away from him. I was kind of surprised Gardner Johnson didn't try to cut his legs out after the catch, and he just kind of was like content to run parallel to him, but what a shame. Like, totally worked out for the Packers. And other than the interception, no other negative worthy plays. I know he took the sack before the interception, but that's part of Belton needing to be a little bit better in pass protection. Love maybe could have thrown it away somewhere, but when you get a guy thrown into your lap and you have to bounce off that offensive player, that offensive lineman, your internal clock is screwed up already at that point, and he's just like, okay, I got it away from the initial wave. Is someone open now? And I think when he was trying to make that determination of where he could go with the ball is when Sweat got around Walker and got there for the sack. So can't really do much about that one. That's one of those, it just sort of is what it is plays. And you know what? Like I said, I want to see more when they play again in Chicago, but they did a lot of good, and it was more than enough. I don't want to say more than, but it was enough against this Bears. You covered the spread that a lot of people were like, the Bears are the number one team in the NFC, and why are they being disrespected like this going into Lambeau, and they're a full touchdown. That spread sounds too big, kind of thing and stuff. And if Green Bay executes just a little better here and there, this is a laugher blowout, I think, because it was teetering that way at halftime, and you just couldn't execute coming out of the half, and it allowed Chicago the breathing room to not have to change up their offense too much to stay in the game.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you, and I know that's weird that we disagree with each other on something, but I think the way I saw it, I think Jordan could have made a play on the sack, whether it was to throw away or just kind of, I'd have to go back and watch it, but I do think he had a check down that he could have hit. But I do agree that once you get somebody thrown in your lap, it kind of everything. But I think that is what led to the interception, because I think he panicked. I think once he took that sack, he panicked on the next play, and that's what hurt him, because that ball hit him hit the DB right in the chest, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That was a messy situation, and I think that really killed a little bit of the momentum, because then after that they kind of came back a little conservative, but not overly conservative, until he got like back into his rhythm. And so but other than that, he had a hell of a game. Still better than what Caleb Williams put up. He was 17-25, 234 with 3 touchdowns and the interception, and took 1 sack. And I do have to say, I think it was Aaron Alice that said it or something, that Jordan's got to be leading the league in most yards lost on a sack, because it seems like he's always losing like 14 plus yards when he gets sacked.
It's a mechanism of he takes some and what's it called? QB school goes. JT O'Sullivan goes over it a lot, where he's always kind of like under his breath saying like, I am shocked that this route is usually a 3-step drop and they turn it into a 5. This is usually a 5 and they make it a 7. And he's like,
this is a 7 and he makes it a 10.
And it's not that he's patting the ball or anything like that. And I do think it's a function of Jordan has a strong arm, so he's like, let me get as far back from my line as possible so I can see everything just a little clearer. But it's one of those where it works way more often than it is a problem. But in the times where you're beat, because of how far you are away from your offensive line, if someone gets through, you don't have, Rodgers, one of Rodgers' things is like, he would like run guys back into blockers kind of thing, because he's like, and the A gap was right there to run, the A or B gap was right there to escape out of. Whereas Love, it's like, he should run, but you're like, he's running from like 8 yards back in the backfield. And it's like, oh, by the time he gets there, 2 defenders have like crashed from downhill kind of thing. But it's one of those little like idiosyncrasies of how the offense works under him. And like you said, he's so good at avoiding sacks. But those 1 or 2 times, it's like, holy shit, they just lost 15 yards on a routine sack or something like that. But, gotta give some, take some. But today, the Packers took more than they gave, and that's what you want if you're a fan.
True North says a lot of chirping in this game, and I do agree, and that's something I want to talk about later. Enigbare played good. True North throwing in a fresh cheese of Enigbare. Yeah, he played well. I did see some people say, well, that means he's going to get another contract. And it's like, I don't know if that guarantees him another contract. I mean,
I
they're
think it
obviously going to
guarantees
talk.
someone will pay him, but I don't think Green Bay
Yeah.
is going to. They,
If there was interest in trading for him, there's going to be a ton of interest in
yeah,
signing him
yeah.
this offseason.
We'll
So,
get into
but
it
that's
more.
something that we'll jump
Yeah,
into later when it comes to that time. But yes, he had a hell of a game. I think he was the one that had the only sack
yeah.
on
He
Williams,
had to clean up after
and
Parsons pushed him up in the pocket.
yeah, and then he did some good things in the run
He's
game.
the one who
So
forced the game-ending fourth down play. He scrapes over the
yeah,
top and knocks the shit out of Manungai. Like everyone's gonna belly hoe it and stuff, but the first half defense was excellent today,
that's
and
what I mean. They were amazing, and then just like in the second half,
they just
everything
got
like
gassed. Like there was the
yeah,
point before the final touchdown drive where look at any Packers reporter, whether they're highlighting that Green Bay only had 10 plays or the discrepancy was like plus 22 plays for Chicago. That's what's gonna kill yeah. Momentum, I don't buy into that and stuff, like in-game momentum swings, whatever, but time of possession, it is like today's game was the definition of time of possession doesn't mean shit until it does, because Green Bay absolutely owned time of possession in the first half. I think first quarter it was like 2-1 basically, and then it was a little bit closer to like 60-40 in the second quarter, and then in the second half it was like Green Bay had the ball for what felt like 2 minutes. Even their touchdown, the first touchdown drive was 4 plays, I think, and it was a quick drive. But so yes, the Packers defense needs to get off the field when they can. And at the same time, it's like I understand why they're tired, because one, Chicago or the Packers offense, like I said, just refuses to go up 3 scores in the flow of a game on an opponent. And therefore Chicago could lean on its run game and like literally lean on it on our defense. And then you're trying to stop their rushing attack while your defensive ends are also getting gas chasing Williams around the backfield. And it's just a recipe for potential disaster. And luckily the Packers offense, like I said, they did enough to put 4 touchdowns on the board. Probably could have had more, but 28 should win you most games in the NFL when you're playing any sort of passable defense. The Green Bay defense did its work early and bought the like that's the thing, is it's like it is one of those where you're like, okay, we have 21, but we've been at 21 for a long time, or we've been at 14 for a while, guys. Like, let's get it together. But everyone's gonna want to complain about the second half defense, but you can't not recognize what Hafley's unit did in the first half.
yeah, and I've said that the whole time, that it just they did amazing things. And yeah, True North says Bears also made some key plays to stay on the field in
Yeah.
the second half. That's true, but there's also something that I want to get into later on when we start talking about things that kept the Bears into it a little bit more than it should have. But yeah, I mean, I can't fault the defense on anything really, except there towards, like I said, the second half, they just, and like you said, they were gassed. I will admit that they were gassed by it for chasing everybody around, but what was still hurting them was something that we talked about all season, all off season. The secondary, you could see that there were gaps in the secondary, and even a quarterback like Caleb Williams was able to take advantage of some of those things. And the tight ends were hurting a little bit more than anything else. I would have hated to see what would have happened had Odunze been able to play today, because that would have given Caleb even more of a target outside of just DJ Moore and your Michigan dude, Loveland. So I know that's hindsight 2020. I know that's what like the saying goes, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. It just, you can play the if games all you want, but it's something that is worried. And now I'm not going to say like the hotheads were there for a while. Oh, well, Nixon needs to be cut. Nixon needs to be this. I think it's more that Halfley was still trying to do a little bit of what we complained about during the Washington game and a little bit about the Dallas game and a couple other games where he was playing a little bit of soft zone. Yes, he was using a lot more of the linebacker blitzes and stuff like that, but you like on one of the big catches there towards the end, Carrington passes off the receiver to the next level, and McKinney isn't able to get there in time to stop the ball, so it goes for a bigger gain than what it should have. So that's what hurt a little bit more. But like I said, overall, I'm not going to fault the defense on anything. It's just there's nothing that they're going to be able to do about it at this point in the season. You know, you're just going to have to live with some of it, and it's going to cause some close games like this. Bullard, yes, definitely. I think Bullard is really stepping into the True North chimed in with fresh cheese, Javon Bullard. I think Bullard's really stepping into his role. They did have Hobbs out there today for a little bit, but it ended up Bullard played more than Hobbs. And, you know, I think give Bullard one more year and he's going to be that utility guy that they're going to be able to use. I know all the talk is on Evan Williams, rightfully so. All the talk is on Evan Williams, but I think give Bullard another year and he's going to be that guy that you can throw out there as either a deep safety, a box safety, whatever you need him to be, and he's going to be able to do it.
Yeah, they need all those pieces because, like you said, the more that you can cover up for the fact that your corners are okay, that you need all of that. So, and we said it going into this game, your offense has to be your best defense in these kind of matchups. And I liked the highs that we saw. I just think we should have and need to see more of them. But otherwise, I thought special teams had a decent day. I know we had the penalties on the one Whelan punt, and then he hit a really nice one, and then he kind of like hooked it on the re-kick and stuff. But otherwise, I thought special teams was pretty solid today.
Then you had the McManus dumb mistake.
Yeah, well, you know my thoughts on that. He is a dumb mistake, honestly, at this point, but that's neither here nor there. But to each their own, and yeah, like I said, I will revise. I think we're both kind of here. We'll revise how we feel about really both Halfley and LaFleur in 2 weeks because LaFleur kind of said it, this quiet part out loud on Monday that it's like, yeah, like if we can win this game without having to do too many things, that would be ideal. And like you said, it did sort of have the feel that it's like, I'm going to show a couple things, but those couple of things are, hey, Jaden's back. And kind of keep some of the Ferrari hidden in the garage at this point. But like I said, we'll see. They got a tough test coming up in Denver this week, I'm kind of glad they're riding high on like 10 straight wins or whatever the fuck they're at. But, the road gets no lighter for the Packers moving forward. Like now you've taken the NFC North, you got to keep that positioning. So no rest for the weary, and same kind of mentality. We'll just get through to our next section in the program.
You got any more freshes, or are you ready to move on? I don't really have a ton of stales, so do you have anything stale? I have one I can talk about, but I don't really have any.
Yeah, go for it.
What's this stale shit?
And it's Romeo Doubs. And I don't think it's anything on Romeo, his play itself. It just, for some reason, it seems like they're beginning to start the phase out of Romeo. And because today, he only had one target?
2, I think. Because you had the
fake.
You have the roll. There was that play where Love rolled out to his left and he just missed him on third down. And then there was the deep shot.
He had 2 targets. That deep shot was what it was. I don't think that's Romeo's game to take those deep shots with. Again, that's something we're going to talk about in the moldy section because I really am not happy with today's game in certain aspects. But I don't know. It just really feels like this was the game that they started the phase out of Romeo
Yeah,
because there are hardly any targets. He did get the yeah, we're getting there, True. We're getting there. Just hold your horses here. But they really it used to be that Romeo was the safety blanket. And now we're not even seeing that kind of thing anymore. So I don't know. I've got it in stale right now because I could just be jumping the gun on things, but it really does feel like this is the phase out portion of Romeo Dobbs.
yeah. I honestly, and this is someone who like wanted the Packers to draft Dobbs for 2 seasons, basically. I honestly expected at some point because I don't think they're signing him back unless someone falls into a hole at some point between now and March and the beginning of March 2026. And it's kind of my reasoning that they had to phase him out at some point is the thing you brought up where he loves binky, safety blanket, all that kind of stuff. It's it's one of those where I like the things Dobbs does well, but he's not good enough overall of a player where like he has to play because he's like that guy. And they realistically should have other guys who are better at doing the things he does best. And you have to get those guys snaps in preparation for when Dobbs isn't here next year. Like 99% likely isn't going to be here next season. My Steele is one of those guys who is going to be here next season that didn't get to play. Like, and I'll pump the brakes on it because he was dinged up last week, but he was having a career game in Detroit. And that's not Davian Wicks. And we noted it in the recap game where it looked like he rolled his ankle a little bit on his first touchdown catch, and it was kind of you could see them working on him the whole game on the sideline, and he was listed with the ankle this week in practice. But he Wicks started with Watson and Reid as the three receiver set coming out of when the Packers got the ball back on their first possession. And then as everyone on Twitter was saying, like, we haven't seen 13 since the first quarter. And it's one of those where I'm kind of like and like I said, you got more than enough from Watson, Reid today, like more than I was expecting them to from Reid, honestly. I really like what they're seeing from Watson, but it's like, okay, and I agree with you. They're definitely doing the phase out, but it's like, you gotta get these snaps to, whether it's Reid playing outside wide more often, or you're getting Golden those snaps, or what's it called? Whether it's Wicks or Golden, like those are the guys you got to get in there. And I understand that, we don't know how healthy or not healthy Wicks is, and Golden is in his first game back after missing a few. But yeah, it was kind of weird how they handled, like you said, the mesh point on this one, and we'll see how it goes in the coming weeks. I am glad they're not just like, oh, the playoffs started and we're not going to use Dobbs, but at the same time, it was a little weird how it was like, in a way, sort of half-assed in the sense that it's like, okay, Dobbs is not playing as much, but what are we doing in the medium? Like, it had that feel of like, okay, but what are we doing in the interim to meet these 2 points of like, Love really wants to look for Dobbs at every tough opportunity, and he's not on the roster in 2026. And they kind of just threw a dart between those 2 points, and we're like, this is how we're approaching it. And it was more towards the left than it was the right kind of thing. So, yeah, well, that's one, like I said, I put that in the same bin as like, how much was LaFleur holding back for 2 weeks from now, and how much was like, oh, he kind of just wanted to like wade through this one and, play the ball control game, and it almost bit him in the ass kind of thing. So we'll see as we move forward on this one.
Just to talk about a couple things in the chat right now. Gramments, or however you want to pronounce your name here. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And True, I don't call him that. That's not right. I got to put that off as it was cold and everybody has a bad kick once in a while.
I mean, like I said, he just banged one the kick before it, and then he had another punt where he puts it inside the 20 later on. Yeah, that's at the feet of Bisaccia. Like, but also that penalty will dovetail into a bunch of the stuff I know we're going to talk into in the next segment. So if you don't have anything, I don't have anything more, and we can move along. So
All right, just a second. I want to see what this is. Reid Golden first game back gave some variety to plays, the diversity in the room, but Bo Melton having to make big plays as a two-way player didn't make much sense. That's the other thing that kind of throws in with the phase out of Romeo Dobbs is you're going to start seeing other guys get attention more. And I think that's what Mike and I are kind of talking about is them using these different options. It is starting the phase out process of Romeo Dobbs, which pretty much means he's not going to be re-signed unless, like Mike said, somebody completely drops off the face of the earth or for some reason somebody doesn't hand him a medium to big contract in the offseason. But yes, we can go ahead and move on to our complete bitch session. I can't even talk.
It's a Modici.
So this, I know we've kind of harped on this all friggin' season so far, it seems like, but this game was absolutely awful when it came to officiating. And one of the main things that I knew that this officiating was going to be shitty was on one play, it was Darnell Wright hooked Rashawn Gary, and they called the flag. On the next play, this wasn't even like 10 plays later. This was on the exact next play. Darnell Wright did the same exact thing to Micah Parsons, and there was no flag called. That right there told me how this was going to play out for the rest of the game. On top of that, yes, there was a lot to go back to True's comment about the chippiness today. That goes into the chippiness too, because it seemed like the Packers were getting the shaft on those calls because even LaFleur was heated. I mean, if you could read lips, you could see what he was saying after the one Keyshawn penalty because he didn't really do anything outside of push the guy away and the Bears player, like palm struck him right in the chin. Well, that may not be a closed fist punch, but I don't know if you've ever been in a fight and had a palm strike right to the chin. That hurts. So, and that's what I mean. Grimmins says the same, nailed it. But it just seemed like all through the game it was the same shit. And then they would like zoom in on it when Micah was getting held, and you could see automatically he was getting held, but no calls were getting. I still go back to when Micah called out the reffing. What was that? Week 4, week 5, or something like that.
yeah.
And ever since then, he has not gotten a call called for him since. And I get that Cowboys fans know the feelings on this, that, he's going to get that because that's the type of player he is that they're going to not call it on him because of whatever, but that doesn't make it right. That,
Yeah.
You can't, you've got a guy in Myles Garrett that is going for the single season sack record that isn't getting no calls as many times as Micah Parsons is. Could you imagine the sack numbers Micah would have if he wasn't getting held 90% of the time he's on the field?
Yep, it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, and like Aaron Alice pointed out, like, oh, you guys can see the long snapper make a marginal hold, and you can't see Parsons getting snake ripped. And then the other one that was terrible was when Evan Williams comes on the blitz and DeAndre
The guy
Swift
holds
is
his
just
hand.
yeah, please have this dance with me moment, like. And it's like they're like, oh, like he's got to fight. Like, yeah, you want Evan to like break through that or like hold on to Caleb so he can't break the pocket, but he literally can't wrap up because his other arm is being held on like a toddler begging for candy. And my moment for this game is when Rolstat did not at all explain why they ruled it incomplete. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that Bears fans and non-Packers fans are going to say, he said it hit the ground. I was like, when? Like, you should, like, for you to make any kind of overturn, like, you should have to give a short soliloquy on why. And, like, I had a couple back and forths with a couple different people where I said, like, we obviously didn't get a camera angle, they did. And some people said, like, no, like, NFL is different than college where they have to show all the camera angles kind of thing and stuff. And then the only explanation I could come up with was they had to have ruled, because there's no angle where when Evan rips the ball from Loveland, there's no angle where you can see the ball hit the ground because the two players are like they're like lawn chair folded over the football. So the only thing I could think of is that they determined that after Evan took the ball away, he did not possess it long enough before Loveland slapped it out of his hand, which is a load of bullshit. But also,
But
it's like, say that. Like,
right, but
fucking
if you
say
go
that.
by
Yeah.
the letter of the law, he had possession. He was down by contact.
Right.
He didn't
Exactly.
need to.
And that's
And
my
I
other,
said
like,
that-
I didn't even get there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said that on socials too, that by the letter of the law, that's a turnover. But we know how the reffing has been all season long. It's not going to end up that way, and that goes. There was a couple other ones like the Musgraves no catch. There were no angles that I could see that really showed.
Yeah.
Because the
only
one
thing
that
I
they
can
showed
think
that
of-
had
the
the
only
best
thing that-
angle,
yeah.
somebody's head was in the way.
The only thing I can think of is they overreacted to his left hand slipping off the ball. But, like, this is the part that's so stupid about the NFL catch rule, is they don't know how to litigate the part of the rule that says the ball can touch the ground if it doesn't move. And they don't know how to look at a replay, and when a hand comes off the ball, and this is what's so frustrating, is they got it right in Detroit on the Wicks touchdown. But Musgrave does the same thing where he's got it tight in his right hand, so it doesn't matter what his left hand does, and the ground doesn't help him catch the ball. And so it's absolute bullshit that, like, they just do the, oh, yeah, it's overturned, it touched the ground. I'm like, that's not the rule. Like, you have to give us, we deem that he lost possession when it touched the ground or something like that, because he catches the ball in the air first. It's not like, that's the thing, is when you say it touched the ground, it makes it sound like you're ruling he trapped it, which is not what happened at all. He catches the ball before going to the ground. In the process of going to the ground, the ball can touch the ground so long as it doesn't pop loose of both hands. And the refs only looked at his left hand, not his right hand. And it's just a shame, because that was a really nice play that Musgrave made. Really great effort to stretch out and reel that one in. And I think that, you know, I don't want to sit here and be the person that's like, we don't get any calls and stuff, but it's like, when you have two borderline overturns, whatever you want to call it, in the challenge system, it shouldn't be like only one team benefits out of both times kind of thing. Like, that to me is pretty bullshit, that, like, you are trying to be so ticky-tack about your implementation of the rules, and why does only one team benefit from that action? So, because that's the Packers have momentum. Yeah, refs never learn how to do the fucking down by contact or forward progress. Like, the Bears have their 9th win in part because the refs didn't blow a play dead, and Nashawn Wright's like, I didn't hear a whistle. So, I mean, you had the 2-point conversion where McKinney stones Monangai in the hole. Forward progress clearly stopped, and then 2 seconds later, 2 Bears players are like, it's still going, let's push him kind of thing. And like I said, what's really fucking sad about that play is the NFL's not going to do anything about it until someone's leg gets broken in 4K and everyone can see it in 4K high definition. It's only at that point that they're going to go, oh my God, because the NFL, to a T, is the most reactionary rule changing league ever because, why does the cowboy collar rule come into effect? Because Teal broke his leg on America's Game of the Week. Why is the landing? Why is the low quarterback hit? Because Tom Brady's ACL got blown out by a blitzing defender crawling into him. Why is the landing force rule in effect? Because too many of the wrong people were bitching and moaning when the Vikings broke Rodgers' collarbone, and then the NFL writes these rules and they don't know how to reconcile them in real effect. So, like, that's the problem. Is like they're gonna, like I said, it's gonna take someone suffering a gruesome injury that they're like, oh, this is not the face of the NFL. We're gonna litigate that out of the game, and then they're gonna create so many more dumb situations because of it. But and
I've just come up with a way. Just to interrupt you on something, I just come up with a way that we could fix a lot of that. The whole pushing. The Packers need to come up with a play called the cheese toss. That's where one of the biggest linemen grabs the running back and just throws him over the goal line.
No, that is the one rule: is you cannot pull a player. You can push, but you cannot pull.
But they haven't stopped them because look how many times that when they get in the scrum, you'll see their own teammates grabbing them and dragging them in.
Yeah.
But the rule doesn't say that you can't throw them. You can't drag them. But it doesn't say you can't just,
And one of the ones you touched on is losing control of the game. This crew had no control over this game. We'll get into Nixon and his bonehead plays and stuff like that, but the stupid part of that penalty is it happens in an instance where the play ends, the refs try to step in and break up a kerfuffle, send the teams back to their huddles, and then there's still another kerfuffle happening 10 yards away, and it's like, what are you five dingoes doing out there? Like, you have a job to do certain things and stuff, and it's like the NBA where they're like, oh, they'll just start calling more fouls. I'm like, no, that's not your rule. Your rule is to and when I say control a game, I know a lot of people are going to put their tinfoil hats on and be like, the NFL or whatever is rigged and stuff. But no, what I mean is that between the whistles, you're supposed to, perform the duties that you make sure the rules of the game are being acknowledged. Outside of the whistle, it's you go that way, you guys go back to your huddle. That's it. No more no more shit is happening. And this, for like I said, that thing that it resulted in Nixon getting the 15-yard penalty is 50% on Nixon being he shouldn't have even gone over there. That's the thing. But the other 50% of it is refs, do your fucking job. And to go a step further, I have no clue why New York doesn't get involved in those situations. Whether it's when guys throw the first thing and then blatantly flop after getting caught, whether it's instances like the one with Nixon where, like I said, I don't absolve him because he shouldn't have fucking been around that scuffle. But at the same time, it's what he did was nowhere near what the Bears player did to him multiple times in that exchange. So New York should be involved. There should not be any more, they didn't catch the first guy. That stuff, that can't happen in the 4K. It shouldn't have been happening in the 1080p or 720p era. But the fact that now, like I said, you have officials who are able to chime in on he was short, or he didn't catch it, or this whatever, or the pass was tipped, so there's no DPI and stuff. Like I said, you had the penalty you had that one game last week, I think it was the Steelers and Bills one, where the ref is in the middle of calling a penalty, and then it's we just got a call that no, the pass was tipped, no penalty, the third down kind of. It's you can go to all that route, and then you can still have your commentator and color guy going, he didn't do anything, but look at what that guy on the other team did that probably pissed him off and stuff. And like I said, there is still responsibility on Nixon for going into that situation when he had no business, no reason to need to be there. And at the same time, it's like I said, NFL being the most reactionary thing ever. It's never going to be just fans complaining, teams complaining, whatever. It has to be something so embarrassing that the Fail Mary, the league said, fuck it. We don't need to pay refs what they think they're worth. We're good. And it took what? A moment so controversial and so stupid that they were like, oh shit, there's no coming back from that. Pay the refs whatever the fuck they want. And so, like I said, they're the definition of too little, too late, hindsight 2020, and then trying to what's it called? Trying to gaslight into telling you like, oh no, like we knew, like we just have a process that we're going through, and it's like, what? like what? So they'll never do it. The NFL is way too cowardly to do this, but they should absolutely be doing what the ACC does and be broadcasting what New York is talking to the ref about when they're doing the review. Like
the USFL or the USL or UFL or whatever it is.
I think they're doing it too, but the ACC's one is really good where like there is a clear like this is the ref on the field, this is wherever the ACC headquarters is, and they're like talking it out like, yes, I have high hit, but no, he didn't launch. The running back fell into him, and it was an unfortunate series of so no forcible contact, therefore no targeting, or oh no, that guy had a chance to not hit the quarterback or whatever. Like you can like the NFL will never do it because they have this fear that, oh my God, if we expose the refs, they're gonna go on boycott on it. It's like, I'm sorry, be better at your fucking job. Like, don't. It is the whole like in construction. Anyone who's in construction, there is this clause in all contracts that it's like, you are not responsible if the subcontractor or GC before you perform shoddy work, but if you just motor through and say like, I know this wall is crooked, but I have to install you, and then on inspection at the end, like, oh, how come your stuff's wrong? Oh, it's because the wall's crooked. Well, why didn't you say anything? So you have accepted the prior condition. That is a thing that's written into contracts for construction companies, and the NFL is like, we're not going to go that route because like it's fine, it's totally fine. And like I said, it's gonna take something so stupid like I don't think even a play in the Super Bowl will get them to change because they're like, oh, it's an isolated incident. Like that's how, like I said, it has to be something where like a catastrophic injury of some sort is the outcome. The concussion protocol is in effect because they couldn't shove that stuff under the mat anymore. All like the quarterback protection penalties, those are all because someone got something broken or torn terribly on TV. So yeah, on some level, I just say refs are going to be refs, but the way that like I said, the most infuriating part for me is the thing Erin pointed out where she's like, you're not going to call moments where Parsons is clearly held, Evan Williams is getting dragged down by an arm by a running back who we fucking know is shit in pass protection, dude. It's the whole, like I say with the NBA, it's like, don't give the benefit of the doubt to players who suck on defense that they somehow made a great play kind of thing. Same thing in the NFL. It's like, that guy is a shitty pass blocker. Do not reward him for effort that we know he cannot do. But yeah, and then it's like, oh, but you're going to catch the long snapper for kind of getting his arm hooked on a guy on a punt. Like, you can see, you got three guys who are like, we're multiple flagging that. But it's like, you see Parsons getting chokeholded, and it's like, can't do anything about that. Go make a play, Micah. It's like, that's the part that pisses me off the most. So
the reason I left this comment up so long from Brian is, I understand the players have to be a little bit more disciplined on those things. And yes, the rule is always the second guy always gets caught. But in the instance of Keyshawn, the first guy got caught. Because the guy was still... Keyshawn did his little shove or whatever. Then the Bears player did his open palm strike. Then the refs came over, and then all of a sudden flags start flying. And then that's when you see LaFleur throwing a fit over on the sideline saying he threw a fucking punch, and uh this isn't a college football show, true. But yeah, I don't always agree with the second player is going to get caught aspect, because that just makes it a lot easier for the first player to cause something. Because how many times do you see the whole the flops? I mean, there's flops in the NFL that would put NBA players to shame. That it just it's not right either way. If you see something happen, call it. Don't wait for that next person to do something before you call it. Just call it.
Yeah.
And the other one that I kind of wanted to say was the Romeo deep shot. That probably should have been pass interference, because he did everything in the world to cause the DPI to be called.
Yeah.
And that's what receivers are taught to do, is to come back to the ball to get the call. And he didn't get the call.
Like, and Nashon Wright is doing nothing, or not Nashon Wright. It was 24. Whoever the fuck 24 is on the Bears.
Who cares? It's a Bear.
He's doing nothing to deserve not being flagged for the penalty. Like I said, don't give benefit of the doubt to guys who are not good football players. Like, not saying that I would feel any better if it was Jalen Johnson or something, but I could see a ref saying like, okay, Jalen Johnson, he's a good cover guy. Like, he must have just played it well, kind of thing. And it's like, that guy doesn't look back for the ball. He panics. Like, he full on, when Romeo, he can tell Romeo's going up for that ball, he panics and just blocks his left arm from going up. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, that should have been just hallmark. And it goes back to, like I said, refs don't know the rule book. I go back to the Thanksgiving game, and what did they call Keyshawn for? Was illegal contact, when he has every right to the spot on the field, and you cannot reward receivers for running into DBs when like they can run around them, kind of thing. Like, if the DB wants to stand in a spot and you don't decide to run around him, that's your fault. And on that deep shot, it's like, yes, Jordan, throw it a little farther. Dobbs, like, maybe if you go up earlier, whatever kind of thing. But it's like, that's DPI. Like,
honestly, this is what I think happened is Jordan saw what was good, the hand fighting and that going on between the two of them. So he threw it short, trying to draw the DPI, which quarterbacks are kind of taught to do, is to throw it short to get the DPI call. And it should have been called DPI, but I guess the guy was cleaning his glasses or something when the play happened.
And if you watch that play, you can see the ref double clutch going for his flag. If you watch, the cameraman even kind of tracks towards the ref, because I think the cameraman's like, we're getting a flag, and the ref kind of like, no, and he's like, incomplete kind of thing. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, that's like
this is where my conspiracy tinfoil hat can pop out and say the NFL's rigged, because how much it would not surprise me had New York like radioed into his earpiece and said, don't call it. That's where your tinfoil hat comes into place with that shit.
Yep. But
I don't know. We could continue to rant on the refs all for another 3 hours. Are there any other moldies that you really want to get into? Because honestly, I said it earlier that even though the defense just kind of did what it did in the second half and the offense went conservative a little bit, there's not too much you can really complain about.
Yeah. Like I said, my only moldy one is like, Keyshawn, you already gave him a free first down that drive. Like, you need to not be getting yourself into, because that field goal drive for the Bears, he had two dumbass pit penalties. He gets the hands to the face that gives him a first down when we're about to be in 3rd and like 7 or 8 kind of thing. So that's free yards. And then, like I said, whatever you want to say about like, oh, the Bears guy did something worse than he did, whatever. I do think that kind of stuff should be reviewable, because it's clearly like, not to say that like no deed goes unpunished or whatever that shit, but it's like, if someone kicks you in the nuts and you're like you said, you get jacked in the throat, you're gonna react. And at the same time, like I said, Keyshawn had no business of being. The only reason I would have been okay with Keyshawn going over there is if all he does was go and grab Valentine by the back of his shoulder pads and drag his ass back to the huddle. But to go over there and also start woofing at the same guy, that's not going to help your case, kind of thing. So it's like, and I do think the refs kind of penalized him for, you know, if anything, they might have flagged Burden for what was going on between him and Valentine, or just told both of them to shut the fuck up and go back to your huddle. But I do think there's part of the refs where they're human and they're kind of like, where the fuck did you come from and why are you here, kind of thing. So they're kind of like 25 instigated when he didn't need to and stuff. And I kind of do feel like the refs will never admit it, but I do think that's part of the human. And like I said, the refs are 50% to blame for that because they didn't have control of the game. They can't stop from getting up in their feelings about stupid shit. And then on the other side, it's like, Keyshawn, you've already gifted him a first down on this drive. Then you fuck up and give him more yards. And then later on, the touchdown that is caught, I don't even remember who the fuck caught it for the Bears, but it's like
the weird ass name guy.
Zacchaeus. Yeah. It's like, Keyshawn, just knock the ball down. He's trying to go for one of these like diving Charles Woodson interception. It's like, dude, just put your hands together. And
I get that, but I can't, because he played that perfectly and his hands did touch it. I don't know.
To me, and I'm being super critical on that. And yes, I'm definitely piling on him for having two bonehead mistakes earlier in the game. But my whole thing is, I'm like, it's one of those Hail Mary situations where it's like, just bat the ball down. like don't try to do too much, kind of thing and stuff. And you're already at full extension and all. And it's like, just bat it down. Like you said, he got a hand on it. So it's like, if you're, and I'm like, if you're trying to catch it, why aren't your hands together? You're a fucking DB. So like it's just one of those where I look at it and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? But overall, like you said, I'm nitpicking with that one. And
I really do, because even Gremmin says, that TD was as perfect as could be. I mean, I get what you're saying, that he should have just swatted it, but I don't know that. I don't know if he
like I said, that's a
misjudged
pile on one. I'm more pissed off about the two penalties, and then like the constant yapping after plays when it's like you've already been called for unsportsmanlike or a personal foul, and it's like, just don't do that kind of stupid shit already. Like, you've already been black marked by the refs, and they're not gonna give you the benefit of the doubt after this point. Makes the game sealing interception, so it's like, yes, some redemption, but it's like, you still made two at least bonehead plays. You got to do more than one redemption arc, kind of thing and stuff. So other than that, like I said, these are going to be, because of how close these two games are, this is going to be sort of like over a distance grading in terms of that. We said it during the what is fresh and what is stale, where it's like, if LaFleur comes out and has the same like laissez-faire bleed the game clock attitude, then it's like, all right, Matt, you're back in the doghouse. Like, what all the good stuff you did on Thanksgiving, it's like, because my whole thing with the Bears is you need to do whatever you can to go up 3 scores at some point in the game to make their run game irrelevant. And it's like, and I can't fault him coming out of half, because everyone's gonna be like, oh, but I'm like, he took a shot play on first down. They ran hard play action and tried to throw it. And then you just go 3 and out after. Some people will quibble with the run play on second down, but it's like, I'm not going to get on LaFleur too much, because it's like he came out of the half and was ready to wing it down the field, kind of thing, and they just couldn't execute the play. Same thing on the second down. My biggest complaint on the second down play is it's like, stop running slow developing shit behind Rasheed Walker, because he cannot sustain blocks in the run game to save his life. If you're going to do long developing shit, run right. Run right, so you're pulling banks. You can send the tight end back the other way on the wham block, but it's like, run it all right at your beef and your best blocker in Tom. Like, stop trying to be cute. Like, be right-handed and stop trying to be cute with your run game.
But if you go by old-fashioned football technique, your left tackle was never supposed to be your run blocker anyway.
Right, but
Your
that's
left
what I'm saying is
tackle
like,
your
so stop
blind.
trying to run behind him. Like that's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
thing. Is like stop
So,
trying to force it that way. And oh, I
but
have
it's goofy.
one that's sort of like a red flag, and it's more for like my state of mind than anything else. But I'm like, Jacobs turning that toss sweep thing into a first down and an explosive run first down. I was like, fuck, because now LaFleur is gonna be like, it worked, it worked, and I'm like, no, it didn't. Like I tweeted this during the game, it fucking didn't work. Jacobs made 4 guys decide to make business decisions in the middle of a play where he was dead to fucking rights. That play, you watch the replay from behind, and Montez Sweat reads it the whole fucking way. He doesn't flow down the line of scrimmage. He doesn't react to the offense running zone blocking left. He's just like, all right, something's happening here. And he's on it, and the 2 second level defenders crash, and it's like, fuck. And in the middle of saying fuck, it's like, fuck yeah. Like, because that play was so broken and dead, and I'm like, it worked. And I'm like, fuck, now he's gonna call it again. So it's a moldy, because I'm like, that play should have been shot into the moon like 5 years ago. But now that it worked once and like I said, the result was good, but did it work? No. Like, it didn't. Jacobs didn't get 21 yards because everyone on the Bears was like, oh my God, they're running left. It was, I was here and then I was there in the blink of an eye. And you cannot build an offense off of that kind of results.
I want to get to this before we close out. Grandman says, go Pack, go. And I'm thinking he means change in Wisconsin. Had there been any change in Wisconsin about MLF being on the hot seat? I live in Minnesota. Well, first, I'm sorry that you live in Minnesota. I've been there, didn't like it. I think they're better run than the state of Iowa, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of being in Minnesota. Those mosquitoes are like that friggin' big, and but I think you're going to see fair weather fans continue to push the fire Matt thing when the Packers don't do what they think they should do. So if you're asking whether we think he should be on the hot seat, I think Mike and I both have said that we don't feel like this is the year he is on the hot seat. It may be getting a little lukewarm, but it's not quite toasty. But you just got to, and I'm going to say this, even though, we may be capped out at 7 viewers on this live stream. If you got to watch who you follow if you want to believe somebody's on the hot seat or not. Some of these guys are just putting that out there to clickbait, to get that hot take, to, the rumors I'm hearing is they're going to move on from him. We don't know anything. Yeah, I was right. I was able to translate the text.
I've definitely been more hot on LaFleur, like, what are you doing and stuff. I've gone so far as to say, like, maybe policy is right to, like, take it on a year by year state, like that kind of thing, not extend
and
him
that's
and
the
stuff.
only thing we got to go by is that he said that,
right.
He doesn't want to lame duck.
Right. And I did say, like, it was the point where the Packers had, what did I say going into this game was, the Packers have been in this position twice before this season where they've come off two or three big wins, and then they lay an absolute egg in the next game. So, you open the season, great wins over Detroit and Washington, lay an egg in Cleveland. Then you bounce back after the Cleveland loss and the Dallas tie. You get a 2-score win over Cincinnati. You come back to beat the Cardinals, and then you realistically blow out the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and you lay 2 absolute stinkers against the Panthers and the Eagles. Worse off, it's your offense who screwed you in both those games. And like I said, I was super frustrated with LaFleur, but even at that time I said it would take them losing out November, and they would have to look awful on offense.
And we've had this conversation too, where right now there's nobody that we could honestly. I mean, the joke that I put out there was the only way you're going to keep Hafley is if you fire LaFleur and put Halfley in as the head coach. But I mean, it's too early. Even if he is on the hot seat, it's way too early to even think about who would take his place. And you got to remember, when they fired McCarthy, LaFleur kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was really no. I think they were talking about how he could be the next big head coach or whatever, but
that was like
one
a year away kind of thing. It was like his name just popped on the bottom of the top 10 list in that regard kind of thing. Yeah.
And especially when it came to being the Packers head coach, because we all figured that they would go swing for some big name guy or whatever, and it just, when Matt LaFleur dropped, it was like, interesting.
Yeah. No, yeah, and my only thing with that is I do agree that it's hard to say like who's the surefire. That's the guy I would hire, but I'm like, that attitude is why you got McCarthy 2 to 3 years past his expiration date. Like, there was a lot of like, oh, like McCarthy, all that kind of stuff. That's how it's time for us to sign off. But you got the like, oh, like, yeah, McCarthy's bad, but who are we going to hire that's definitely going to be better? And I'm like, I don't like people having that attitude, because it's like, so you're just going to accept diminishing returns that's looking worse and worse when the coach has definitely lost the locker room. I think the Steelers are in that position where it's like, well, he never finishes below 500, so at least we're going to be, we're not going to be competitive when we make the playoffs, but we're going to be competitive to make the playoffs every year, and that's good. And like I said, LaFleur, Grammon. So he went on McAfee and he made his own snarky remark where I don't even know what they were talking about, but then he was like, oh yeah, I think he was talking about the Bears and their improvement and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, well, they've got a good coach. Ask him, he'll tell you himself. And I do think that's about as chippy and as like out there about as LaFleur is going to get with anyone.
There's going to be a lot of questions about after game, because did you see the handshake?
Oh, I loved it. I fucking loved it. That's more. LaFleur is a better man than me, because that's more than I would have given Johnson. So it reminded me of the handshake that Harbaugh gave Jim Schwartz when Jim Schwartz looked like he wanted to fight Harbaugh afterward. And Harbaugh kind of goes,
felt like he slapped him in the back too hard or whatever.
That's kind of what it's kind of what LaFleur did, where he did the handshake and kind of like the single pat on the back thing. It's that's why it reminded me of the Harbaugh one. And that's the one where like Schwartz was all like, like I didn't like that he showed me up and he hit me in the back like that, and Harbaugh did the like, all I did was give him a firm handshake, and I don't know, I guess my hands are stronger than his or something like that.
But I gotta give LaFleur credit on those things, because I don't want to see shirtless, not Ben Johnson, not Quano. But I got to give LaFleur credit, because you can tell he's got that dry type of sense of humor.
Yeah.
Where he's going to give jab here or there, like last week with
you got the wink and stuff like that.
The wink with the timeout deal and stuff like that. But he's not going to get down and dirt. Now, some of the off-season interviews that he's had a little bit more to say then, but in season he usually keeps.
But even the off-season stuff, he wouldn't do the like, oh yeah, and we're gonna beat the Bears twice a year.
But he does throw out a little bit here or there. So that's what I mean, is in season he won't do any of that, period. But and when they're not in season, he'll throw out little things here or there that draw people in and give sound bites. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, kind of to go back what you were saying about the whole finding and trying to figure out who's going to be. That's why I said those decisions and those looking is better when the decision to fire that coach is made.
Yeah.
Because then you can really deep dive in and say, okay, well, maybe we should bring this guy in because his system's similar to what this person has been in. So, there's going to be a little bit more continuity than having to break everything down and start all the way over.
Yeah.
But so that's why I said those conversations are best had in the off season. So I don't know if that answers your question, Gramments, but that's where I personally am at with it. That I'm not going to look to that future until we know we have to look at
Right.
that future.
And that's what we said about the whole like policy not re-upping LaFleur off the bat is like he's gonna be gauged on like there's gonna be some sliders on it, but he's gonna be gauged with how the season goes. Getting Parsons definitely ups the pressure on like how far you're expected to go. They have to make the championship game. Like, I don't want to say that it's a like if he it's a straight if else function where like if he doesn't make it, he's fired kind of thing. But it's like it really puts the microscope down on LaFleur. Like if this team goes and has another disappointing, like 2021, where it's just like, did your team even want to be here kind of thing and stuff. Like last year, I didn't fault them because they were just so at the end of the rope, so injured, so battered. Philly was better than them kind of thing. Like they shouldn't be in that situation is my point this year. Like there's only like, that's the funny thing is like, if they can face the AFC in the Super Bowl, I'm probably going to pick the Packers unless they suffer injuries getting to the Super Bowl because I think they're better than the AFC's best. It's the like rock, paper, scissors of, okay, how much better do you think the Rams are than they are? Do the Eagles just have some stupid voodoo shit over them and stuff like that? Like it gets into the weeds of that side of it. But now that LaFleur has righted, like I said, he's douse some of the fires. We still have some questions about like, can you just put your foot down and bury some opponents? Like, I know that, shortening the game and all that, but I'm like, if you go up 30, that also will shorten the game and you can put your reserves in. But at the same time, it's like, he's graded on a curve and that's this, what his past success has done, what, putting the team in half a game behind the top in the NFC has done. And so it's like, now he's back in the position of, you should make the playoff. I think they're at like 80 something percent at this point. So you should make the playoffs. And now it's like, what are you going to do when you get there? And that's where we're at with LaFleur. But like you said, that conversation is one for a later date. And we'll get there when we get there. And hopefully it's okay. Give him the extension because they just want it all. Like I'm hoping that the conversation we're having at the end of the day. But Joe, do you have anything else for tonight, or are you good?
I think we're good. I think. Well, I do have one more thing to say.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. They really, 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 really suck. Yes, the Bears still suck.
Yes, they do. I know they're gonna say that Odunze got hurt and Kyler couldn't play and stuff, and it's like tough shit. Like
I said it earlier. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
But
if
that's gonna do it for us this week again. Check out our website, please, ohanapackers.org. That slogan is not on a mug, but you know what is? Joe just released the Matt LaFleur line. And I agree, Graham. It's like, well, I'll probably write about that this week, but I've started to get back into writing this past week. So hopefully I'll have a couple articles for you guys this week on the website. Please support us. Please support the shop to support the show. Please follow us on social medias at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. I know there aren't that many watching tonight, but if you can get our follower count up on Facebook, we'll be able to live stream there when we play our next.
I do have one thing that I do want to say. We did have a local card show this weekend, and I just kind of went. And I do want to give a shout out to Vault 44 Cards. I talked to their owner this weekend. They're an upstart. They're near Oskaloosa, Iowa. If you happen to be in Iowa, go check out Vault Shop Cards. The owners are good people. Got to talk to them. They said they're going to start listening to the show. So, at least we're going to have one more listener.
So check us out there. Please follow us on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe. And whether you're following in the live show or when Joe posts requests for comments, questions. Yep, tell your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, it's gonna get down to stuff like me reading from my group thread with my buddies from high school, and that may be even a little too colorful for the show we put on. So that's that's gonna do it for us this week. As we said, the Packers reclaimed the lead in the NFC North, and now it's on them to keep that through the end of the season and let the cards fall on where they end up in the conference. But for Iowa Joe, I'm Mike. Go Pack Go. The Bears still suck, and a low.
Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all hot the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who wanna go.